Chances are, if you've ever heard or watched a political debate, you've heard the terms left wing and right wing get thrown around. Depending on where you live, these terms can be used to simplify and categorize a whole series of political positions and beliefs. But politics is complicated at the best of times, so if you're like me, you have to wonder how these binary labels came to be used in discussions that are often anything but a binary choice. And to find out why these terms are used the way they are, we have to go back to revolutionary France. Our story begins in 1789 at the French Palace of Versailles. It would be on this year that the French king, Louis XVI, would convene the Estates General, a once-in-a-lifetime meetup of French society. Louis's aim for calling this historic event was to propose and legislate much-needed financial reform. The fact that this event is commonly cited as the beginning of the French Revolution should tell you just how successful King Louis's limited aims were. The representatives for this event would arrive at the Palace of Versailles in early May 1789 and begin their debates in a grand audience chamber. Critically for this story, all representatives present would vote not as individuals but as three separate voting blocks or estates, with these three blocks consisting of the First Estate and voting block, composed of the clergy of France. They would sit to the king's right during the Estates General's opening stages. Then there was the Second Estate and voting block, composed of the nobility of France. Finally, there was the Third Estate and last voting block, composed of representatives from every other segment of French society. Almost immediately, the debate would pivot away from financial reform, much to the displeasure of King Louis. The commoner or Third Estate had a laundry list of grievances they felt needed to be addressed, be it food shortages, abuses of power, economic concerns, nepotism, and so forth. Their grievances were extensive. Still, as the days wore on, King Louis remained steadfast, hoping that the debate would settle back down to simple financial reform. However, the Third Estate had no such aims. They would continue to voice their complaints and demand that their needs be addressed. By June 17th, the Third Estate, frustrated by their lack of progress, would take the radical step of declaring themselves the National Assembly and declare their intent to conduct and reform the Kingdom of France, with or without the other two estates. After nearly 2 months of dealing with an increasingly radical Third Estate, this unprecedented declaration was the straw that broke the royal camel's back. King Louis decided that he would force through his desired financial reforms through royal decree, with or without the Third Estate. On June 20th, 1789, the Third Estate attempted to begin another day of debate, only to find all doors leading to the debate hall locked and guarded by soldiers. Not the least bit deterred, the Third Estate, emboldened by the passion of the moment, had a different plan for what would come next. Finding themselves locked out of the original debate hall, the delegates of the Third Estate found another room in Versailles, an indoor tennis court, to hold their debates. It was on this day and in this court that they each solemnly declared and swore to one another that they would not disband until a new French constitution was created. Thus did the famous tennis court oath of 1789 unfold, and thus did the soon-to-be governing body of revolutionary France really find its feet. The Third Estate, now calling themselves the National Assembly, would call on the other two estates, the nobility and the clergy, to join them. Before long, a trickle of defectionist delegates from the clergy and nobility estates became a stream, securing the National Assembly's sole claim to political legitimacy and officially ending the Estates General. With this new revolutionary government in session, it was agreed upon that the National Assembly would vote on an individual basis rather than the original vote by estate system. As such, the decision was made to refurbish the original Estates General debate hall to better account for the new voting makeup of the National Assembly. The old seating arrangement was replaced with 2 semicircles of bleachers facing the chairman's podium. And as the delegates began their first day of debates with this new seating arrangement, a curious thing began to happen. Those who were aligned with the French monarchy and its limited aim of financial reform, overwhelmingly members of the clergy and senior nobility, began to take their seats to the right side of the chairman's podium. Meanwhile, those who favored widespread reform, overwhelmingly members of the Third Estate, began to take their seats to the left side of the chairman's podium. And as the days went by, the seating arrangement would stick. As one right-wing baron in attendance would put it, quote, "I tried to sit in different parts of the hall and not to adopt any marked spot, so as to remain more the master of my opinion. But I was compelled absolutely to abandon the left or else be condemned always to vote alone and thus be subjected to jeers from the galleries." By the early 1790s, French newspapers would begin reporting the voting patterns of the left and the right. and thus did the terms the left and the right come into existence. By the start of the 20th century, Anglo-American newspapers would copy this terminology, reporting on the habits of the left and the right within their own communities, permanently cementing these terms into the English language. So there you have it, the origins of the left and the right. Before you turn this video off, you'll probably find it interesting to note that the French government of today continues to follow the seating arrangement from those heady revolutionary days. As of 2025, left-leaning politicians continue to sit to the French president's left, while right-leaning politicians continue to sit to the French president's right, an arrangement that shows no sign of ending.